What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Kevin Garnett is no question one of the greatest basketball players of all time and one of the top 5 power forwards to ever play the game. He played in the NBA from 1995 to 2016, one of the longest tenures in NBA history. 13 of those seasons were spent in Minnesota. 6 were spent with the Boston Celtics, where, of course, he won a championship in 2008. 2 seasons he played for the Brooklyn Nets. In addition to being an NBA champion, he was the league MVP in 2004, a 15-time All-Star. He was the All-Star Game MVP back in 2003 in Atlanta. 4 times All-NBA first team, 3 times All-NBA second team, twice All-NBA third team. He was the NBA Defensive Player of the Year the same year he won a championship in 2008. 9 times he was NBA All-Defensive First Team, tied with the all-time record, shared by, I believe, him, Kobe, MJ, and Gary Payton, I believe. 3 times NBA All-Defensive Second Team. 4 times led the NBA in rebounding. Member of the 75th anniversary team. He was an all-rookie second team in 1996. Number 5, retired by the Boston Celtics. As great as Kevin Garnett was during his NBA career, I think if he was playing today, he would probably be the best player in the NBA. And I'll tell you why I believe this. Number one, if you look at his game when he played, especially during his prime, he was so versatile and he was so far ahead of the game as far as the evolution of basketball. At the particular time that he was playing for the Timberwolves the first tenure, we had never seen a power forward be able to handle the ball the way he was able to do so. Audio went out a little bit for a little bit. We hadn't quite seen a player who was able to be as effective around the perimeter or the mid-range as Kevin Garnett was when he first came to the NBA. Maybe Charles Barkley, but he was bigger than Charles Barkley. Barkley was 6'4", 250. Garnett was 7 feet tall, 6'11", 7 feet tall, and 220 when he first came to the NBA. He had explosiveness, quickness that Charles sort of had, but Garnett had the length and the uber athleticism that we had never quite seen at that position. His versatility in guarding various positions would be very helpful today, where switching is so prominent on the defensive schemes. He's a tremendous and tenacious rebounder, as I said before, leading the league in rebounding multiple times. His leadership intangibles would be even more pronounced today, considering the personality of many NBA players not wanting to take that mantle, not wanting the pressure of being a leader. Kevin Garnett embraced that and usually thrived upon that. Offensively, Kevin Garnett had uncanny range during his era, usually shooting out to about 18, 19 feet, occasionally shooting from outside. When you look at the fact that he was such a great mid-range shooter, when you look at the fact that he was a good free throw shooter, exceptionally good for his era, 80%, I tend to think that in today's NBA, he would have pushed his range out to the three-point line and been a more consistent three-point shooter in this era of perimeter play and spacing being emphasized. His defensive and offensive IQ were extremely high. He had a tremendous motor. And he was very effective in the pick and roll, which is used prominently today. So it's because of these reasons, I think he would have been the best player in basketball. One of the things that hurt him when he was playing was that despite his greatness, he wasn't the biggest guy. He still had to contend with traditional bigs who were 250, 270, 280. So Garnett was not as dominant a force in the post like a Tim Duncan. But I think, though, when you have a league today that is skewed smaller, in particular with the fact that you don't really have that big body, other than Jokic and Joel Embiid, who, by the way, can't, because of rules, stay camped in the post like they used to. But outside of those guys, most of these bigs are really power forwards, as I said time and time again, masquerading as centers. Some of them are stretch forwards, and everything pushed out the perimeter. This would have made Garnett a bigger and stronger and more dominant force in the post. So, when you look at his scoring ability, remember he scored 26,000 points in his career. When you look at his shooting ability, when you look at his rebounding, his ability to block shots, his ability to facilitate, which he was one of the best passing big men of his era. I wouldn't be surprised if today he would average 7 to 8 assists because the offense would run through Kevin Garnett. There's no doubt in my mind with his mentality and his will to be the best. Remember, this is a man that won an MVP award back in 2004 in the heart of the defensive era. There's no doubt in my mind that Kevin Garnett would be the best player in the NBA. As great as Giannis is, as great as he is, Garnett's a better free throw shooter. Garnett's a better shot blocker. As great as Giannis is on defense, Garnett is probably a little bit better as far as his defensive versatility. He doesn't have Giannis's strength or quite his size, but he's about the same height. He has a better basketball IQ than Giannis. He's a far better mid-range shooter and outside shooter than Giannis. And Giannis is a two-time league MVP. You see where I'm going with this? Yeah, I think that Kevin Garnett would be the best player in the NBA. It's just a matter of putting him on a franchise where obviously he gets along with the owner. He didn't get along with the owner in Minnesota, and they built a team around him that'll be successful. And he has to have somebody to complement him in the backcourt. But if you do that, if you put somebody in the backcourt with this guy, a great passing point guard, I think that Garnett would be very successful. Remember, he had to go through, in the West, such competition out there. Remember, he had to go through the Kobe Shaq Lakers. He had to go through Tim Duncan Spurs. He had to go through Dirk's Dallas Mavericks. He had to go through Steve Nash Suns. It was so many different teams. Even in the beginning, it was still Stockton Malone in the twilight of their years in Utah. Chris Webber Kings. Today, depending upon which conference he's in particular in the East, outside of Boston, Philly, and maybe Milwaukee, if you get him paired with another star, he could contend. You put him in the West, outside of Denver, Minnesota, ironically, probably forgetting the franchise. I'm not sold on Phoenix. Outside of these teams, he'll be competitive. So the path to glory is much more pronounced for Kevin Garnett. But this is my opinion, at least. Tell me what you guys think.